By Professor Michael Thrasher, Sky's elections analyst. The magic number is 301. That's the number of parliamentary seats required to secure an overall majority at the next general election if the recommendations of the independent boundary commissions are accepted. As part of their brief, the commissioners were instructed to reduce the House of Commons by 50 seats from the current 650. They were also told to remove inequalities in electorate size across constituencies. 3 of those commissions, those for England, Scotland and Wales, have now published their revised proposals. The revised recommendations for Northern Ireland are still awaited. A further period of consultation is scheduled, but radical changes are not expected. The results of the Commissioners' deliberations are certain to create controversy and conflict in Westminster and beyond. This is because if the new boundaries had been in place last June, estimates show the Conservatives would have won a total of 308 seats, a Commons majority of 16 seats. If the 9 seats that Sinn Féin are projected to win on the revised boundaries are also taken into account, then Theresa May would have had a working majority of 25. My colleague Colin Rallings and I were commissioned by a consortium comprising Sky News, BBC News, ITV News and the Press Association to estimate how votes would have been cast in the new constituencies at the last general election in June 2017. These estimates will now become the baseline to compare the party's performance at the next election scheduled for 2022. Because the total number of seats is reduced, most parties lose out. But some lose out more than others. Overall, the Conservatives are set to lose 10 seats, but Labour's losses are projected to be 3 times that number, taking it to about 232 seats. Compared with the actual seats won in 2017, that's a 3-point fall for the Tories but one of 11 points for Labour. The news is even worse for the Liberal Democrats. The estimates show the party with only 7 seats instead of their current 12. Both the SNP and Plaid Cymru lose 2 seats, but for the latter that halves their representation at Westminster. Labour will cry foul. It loses 6 seats in Wales, largely because the Principality falls from 40 to just 29 seats. It loses another 6 seats in the North West England, and there are losses too in the Midlands and London. Labour argues that the new method of electoral registration has led to it being disadvantaged by the boundary changes. The real number of eligible voters has been underestimated, particularly in areas that typically support Labour. Other parties will join the protest. The Conservatives, of course, will be determined to see the proposals implemented, but this requires parliamentary approval. The DUP's support is essential. But there's the rub. The initial recommendations from the Northern Ireland Commission indicate a net loss of 3 seats for the party. Under these circumstances, it will be reluctant to support the Conservatives and the boundary changes will be rejected. Is this yet another heavy price the Conservatives will be forced to pay for Mrs May's failure to secure an outright win last June?